Hari Om Tat Sat Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Shubhubnishad Uvacha Yat Karoshi Yadashanasi Yajjuhoshi Dadasi Yat Tapasyasi Kaunteya Tat Kurushva Madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer to the sacred fire, whatever gifts you bestow, whatever austerities you perform, O son of Kunti, do them as an offering to me. Spells and incantations of a wizard. That is where I'm going to begin, because I believe what I'm going to term spell verses, or verse spells, not made my mind up on which sounds better, is how I utilize this verse. Most of the time it's optional, sometimes it is unbidden. Allow me to explain by sharing my humble takeaways from chapter 9 verse 27. The previous verse is talking about whatever one is offering to do with love and devotion, and it mentions offering of physical objects, whether that be water, a leaf, or wealth of some sort. Then, as we move into this verse, the Lord mentions making an offering of one's own actions, what they do, what they eat, what they gift, the austerities, the meditation, the prayers, the rituals, the austerities that they perform. And from my ponderings, there are a few meanings that I have drawn from this verse, and a few possible outcomes from bringing this verse into one's life, into my life. Number one is, if I'm ever going to make an offering to anyone, whether it be the Lord or whether it be someone else that I know, another humanoid, then I would always make it something that I feel that they would like, that they would find pleasing, that would put a smile on their face, something that they would enjoy. So similarly, if I'm making an offering of my very actions, the food that I consume, the gifts that I give, the meditations, the prayers that I do, the austerities that I perform, if I'm making an offering of all this to the Lord, then I would have to make those actions, those gifts, that which I eat, the austerities that I perform, my meditations, perform them in a way that is pleasing to the Lord. Conduct all my actions in a way that I would be confident to say, yeah, just as when I give something or provide a service to another humanoid, I try and make sure that it is something that they will like, that they will find pleasing and enjoy. In the same vein, when I make an offering of my actions, what I consume and what I gift, what meditations I do, when I make an offering of that to the Lord, I'm going to make that something that I believe within myself the Lord will find pleasing. Personally, I found this to be a very powerful tool in my life, that I can invoke this verse as a spell and reflect if the action that I'm doing in the moment or that I've just done is one that I am confident to make an offering of. Or do I need to make an adjustment for the rest of the day? Do I need to employ some wizardry and cast my spell 9.26 to re-inspire myself, to center myself, to focus my mind and help guide my thoughts, words and actions. Because indeed, often in the happenings of the day, I find myself reflecting on the last 5 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, and like, actually, that particular interaction I didn't mean to do in a hurried way or shave that corner, but I might have. But I can do better. And another little tool that I like to use is whenever something like that happens, rather than beating myself up about it, like, oh, you wastrel, how did you do that? You failed. I just like singing to myself, anything you can do, I can do better. Anything you can do, I can do better. I know you're thinking, you're saying random. Oh, buddy, that sounds like a very powerful spell. And I would agree with you. I do think it's very powerful. In fact, I just remembered, I had this whole metaphor about Gandalf fighting the Balrog. That was amazing and would have described my point terribly, probably, but I liked it. So let's do it. I had imagined it as me being Gandalf, of course, and standing on the bridge of Khazad-dûm and the Balrog coming up, and that represents the sin, the evil, the temptation, the desire to cut the corners, to do something immoral, to do a half-baked job. And it is roaring with flame, billowing with smoke, towering above me as Gandalf, with its whip and its sword in hand, and me as Gandalf with my trusty staff, with subtle spells, nothing too elaborate. Gandalf never does anything like stupendously showmanshipy, apart from the firework dragon, but always the magic is subtle. Standing there in front of the Balrog and shouting, "You shall not pass!" And so the spell verse is cast to stop the Balrog proceeding any further. Stop the Balrog from having its way. Stop the Balrog from destroying and corrupting. And sometimes, as Gandalf, I walk away victorious. Sometimes the Balrog temporarily wins and drags me down into the depths of Khazad-dûm. Sometimes I walk away as Gandalf, believing myself victorious, only to have the whip of the Balrog snag at my heels and drag me down. Sometimes, as Gandalf, the whip drags me down and I grab hold of my staff and my sword and I battle the Balrog into the depths of Khazad-dûm. Whatever the outcome is, I know personally I would never choose to be the Balrog over Gandalf, and I would want to fight the Balrog, fight the sin, fight the immoral acts, fight the negativity, the bad, fight it with the purity, the wisdom, light, spells, and wizardry of Gandalf. Take home number 2. The thought popped into my mind that maybe it's just a a misconception, one of the two, in my own mind, that it is often thought that in order to be devoted to the Lord, in order to be spiritual, to be pious and holy, one has to sit down and pray, do some sort of ritual, read a particular something, listen to a particular something, go to a holy place, and then once you leave the holy place, then the worship and devotion is done, or that the worship only lasts while you're in front of a picture or an idol of whatever that something is for each individual. However, as I was pondering verse 27, I thought to myself, does verse 27 not dispel that concept, that idea, that worship and devotion is being some sort of priest or priestess going to a holy place and praying, chanting, reading some spiritual text, being on your own somewhere in a mountain top, meditating in a cave? And perhaps I'm reading a little too much into the verse. However, I do feel that the words that make up the verse do very much suggest that Krishna is saying, be part of the world. You know, go out, do things, eat things, gift things, conduct rituals, conduct meditations, engage in society, create relationships, do all of that, enjoy the world, but do so with detachment. Don't be overly attached. Don't be consumed by all these worldly things. Don't be consumed by all these actions, all these motivations, these ambitions, these connections, these relationships. Do not be consumed by what you eat, what you gift, what rituals you perform, what meditations you perform. How? Random, you might be asking, how does one do this? Be a part of the world, but detached. Be a part of the world, but not, in a manner of speaking. Well, I don't know. But if I may be so bold to offer up a suggestion from verse 27, sounds very much to me that the Lord has our back on this matter, and probably all others, by giving us the option to be a part of the world, do things, eat things, gift things, conduct rituals, perform austerities, do all the things in the world. But instead of holding tight to them, hoarding them, letting them control us, and being driven by insatiable desire, instead, make it all an offering to me. So then, perhaps you can see now where I am coming from. That worship, being devoted, being pious, being spiritual, isn't necessarily locked exclusively behind those preconceived acts of prayer and holy places. But if one makes every act, every word, every thought an offering to the Lord, then life itself becomes a form of worship. Living, acting, breathing, doing, saying, thinking becomes one's worship. And that brings me to my third and final take home from chapter 9, verse 27, which is in regards to humility. Because it struck me that if one is making an offering of their very life, that everything that they do, they say, they think is a form of worship, is made to be pleasing to the Lord, to be aligned with the Lord's nature of love, then it could well have the power to transform the mindset, the drive behind one's actions, behind what they do, behind what they think, or behind what they say, from that of a selfish nature or more ego-driven motive. I believe verse 27 can be a powerful tool to help one develop that quality of humbleness, because everything is an offering. All these things that I have, everything that I do, everything that I say, everything that I think, everything that I own, everything that I pursue, I'm going to make it an offering to you. It's not mine, it's not for me, it's for you. All glory to the Lord. And why I believe this helps develop the quality of humbleness is the more one relinquishes the attachment to one's own actions and thoughts and words, and instead begins more and more to surrender them and offer them to the Lord, then when one does that, if they're not yours, if you've offered them, if you've surrendered them away, then how can you have an ego about it? It's not mine, it's yours, so no need for me to feel pride about it. I did this for you, not for myself. Therefore, whatever consequences, good or bad, if it's heaps and heaps of praise, big rewards, more challenges, difficulty, it's all good in the hood, because I'm not held on to anything, I'm not going to hold on to anything, I'm surrendering it. It ain't easy being a wizard, let me tell you. Spells don't always work if the incantation isn't right, if the willpower, the determination, the self-discipline isn't behind it. And I have found those things that make spells function as intended take time to cultivate, take time to build and make stronger within oneself, within myself. However, I have no doubt that those things that seem difficult, challenging, perhaps even nigh on impossible, with steadfast resolve, determination, faith, and unrelenting pursuit, can be made easy, attainable, achievable, part of one's very nature, such that it requires no effort to perform, no thought. It is simply the way one is. In conclusion, I shall present a concluding spell. One that, on a personal note, I have found very, very effective. Super effective. So, on occasion, when I am nervous before doing something, when there is a particularly intense situation, when I feel my ego creeping up, and even when I find bad, negative, evil thoughts invading my mind, I invoke this verse, this spell, by imagining the Lord's feet. Because in the culture that I am from, whenever there is a revered person in front of us, a parent, a teacher, an elder, we bow down and touch their feet in humbleness, gratefulness, respect, and a way to pour out our ego is what I was taught. When you bow down, you imagine it like a teapot and you're pouring out your ego. And then the revered person will bless us, hopefully. And similarly, when we make an offering to the Lord, we do not offer it into their hand, at their head, in their lap. We offer it humbly at the Lord's feet. And so I visualize the Lord's feet in front of me in my mind's eye. And in the case where it is a bad or evil thought invading my mind, then I will offer that even at the Lord's feet and say, all right, Bhagwan, let's get this obliterated, light it up, let's get rid of it. And I invoke this verse, this visualization, to dispel what evil thought was attempting to invade my mind. Cast it away, burn it away with divine, righteous, holy light. In those circumstances where I invoke it, when I'm feeling a little nervous about something or an intense situation, or I feel my ego creeping up, then I simply bring up this verse, the essence of this verse, visualize the Lord's feet in my mind, and I offer whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever situation it is, I offer it to the Lord with the simple incantation, at thy lotus feet.